We're back after legit a month.
Back again.
Eh, Welcome back to I Can't with a G. Um, Basically, travel. I went to Chile. It was amazing, but family issues, just not really issues, but just I wanted to spend as much time with my family, so we couldn't record until now. I'm back
Gotcha.
in New York. Langston, where are you?
Still in Valencia, this time with a repaired computer because as soon as Melchor got back from Chile, I dropped my computer on the ground and crashed my screen. But shout out Apple Care, shout out Apple for that free replacement, and we're back and better than ever. So
Indeed, we are back. Okay, so let's jump right into it where we left off. Minnesota. I kind of just want to touch on what we were talking about because a month has passed.
yeah.
Thankfully, no one else has died from ice shootings that I know of, like Alex Preddy and Renee Good. Although other people have died during like their detainment in ice captivity. Um, but right before that week that we recorded our last episode, there was supposed to be a nationwide like blackout or walkout on Friday, I think it was, which based off of what we were saying, what I was saying specifically, is good because that shows like stopping the stock market, like having some financial incentive for people to do change. Unfortunately, based off of what I was seeing and how it felt to me, it was only really Minnesota and Minneapolis that really went through with it. The rest of the country kind of like just put it on their stories and was like, oh, yay, but then still went to work. Um, so baby steps, but as of now, um, in terms of like what is going on, the media has kind of moved on to new topics with like the Jeffrey Epstein list of documents and pedos. Um, but basically, not much more is being told on the primetime news outlets. Protests are still going on. People are still looking out for one another, blowing whistles, honking horns. And a positive note, I'll double check this later, but I think 600 ICE agents were pulled out. But that still leaves around like 2,000 or 1,000 ICE agents there, which is greatly above the cap. So,
Yeah.
recap, keep fighting, keep protesting, and yeah, that's what I got to say.
Yeah. Yeah, Melchor, I think Melchor summed it up perfectly, I think. Only thing, one new development in ICE was that, I don't know, maybe you saw this, but there was revealed that ICE shot and killed a 23-year-old citizen named Ruben Ray Martinez on March 15th, 2025 in South Padre, Texas. But it wasn't revealed at that time. So it seems like there's a cover up. There has been a cover up, and it's like, and it just started kind of breaking the news like maybe a couple of days ago. But that killing was almost a year ago now.
Yeah.
And also started breaking news because he was shot in his car, and then the person who was in the car with him happened to die in a random car crash a week or so, a couple of days ago. So then that
Mm,
also started catching eyes. Um, but yeah, other than that, it seems like it's kind of things have gone to at least a perceived normal online and on the internet news. Like Macho said, the news cycle is short, new things are being talked about. They pull people out, and I think it's basically kind of just like, okay, Trump administration's still doing what they're doing, but on a quieter level. So that's not great. And we got to figure out or see if any type of sustained resistance will come before the midterms, which I don't think it will, but we'll see.
we shall indeed. All right, that's our little recap. Now let's talk about the main topics of this episode today. I kind of wanted to touch on this because I'm about to move to a different place. I know, Langston, you've moved about a crazy
But
amount of times.
no, Troy, do you want to talk about where you might be moving, or
Well,
just
yeah,
a little hint, just a little hint?
PR. Me voy para PR.
A
Um,
chocar de otra cosa.
Ancho PR. Yeah. So, in light of that, most likely moving, I kind of just want to go over because I specifically had a tough time in New York my first year because I was working and then like 9 to 5 and then right after like from 5 to 12 I was studying to take the MCAT. So it was rough. I couldn't really go out and meet people. So I kind of just want to, as a two young men in our early 20s, talk about what we can do that helps get established in a new city. So yeah, but if there's like three things, or like what were the three things that made it easiest for you in your most recent move to Valencia, and how did you do it differently? Did you do something different based off of your previous moves to
Yeah.
Colombia and Chile?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. Good ideas. For me, I think three things come to mind pretty easily. Introducing yourself to everybody that you meet, saying yes to everything, and then following up with some sort of connection. Meaning, okay. And I'll explain those. For me, so like Macho said, like, yeah, like we both have done recent moves. Right now I'm in Valencia, Spain, but I've moved and been in new social situations like pretty consistently over the past maybe 4 or 5 years, whether that's going to college, whether that's studying abroad in two different countries, whether that's now coming to Spain, right? So that's four moves basically in the span of literally only 3 years. Um, and so the things I said, introducing yourself, you got to take initiative. For me, when I was growing up, I was a shy kid. I still have shy tendencies, even though I'm perceived as super extroverted. Like, but one
Same
thing,
here.
yeah, one thing my dad always like instilled in me though was, you need to put yourself out there. You need to take initiative. Don't be afraid to go ask a certain kid to play or go talk to a girl or go introduce yourself to a teacher, right? Make yourself stand out. And so for me, the way I try to think about it is that every friend, literally, this is literally how I think about it about going in new situations and being out, whether it's at work, whether it's at school, whether it's partying, whether it's just like on the street, right? Maybe it's a girl or somebody you think is pretty, da da da, right? I think about it this way. Every relationship that I have, every friendship that I have, every connection that I have started out with somebody introducing themselves, right? And so like it just has to be done. And if you want it to happen, you're the best person to make it happen. So that's one. Introducing yourself, saying hello, my name is, boom. Second thing is saying yes to everything. Try new things, try old things. Just say yes because like for example, me coming to Valencia, in addition to like introducing myself, okay. Next thing is, how do you establish a relationship with somebody? You got to go hang out with them. You got to do things with them. You got to do activities. If somebody invites you to a cookout, say yes. If somebody invites you to a party, say yes. If somebody asks you to study at a cafe, say yes. If somebody asks you to like do something you've never done before, say yes. For me, like I met a lot of people. I met a lot of my friends here because these guys that I met the day before, when I first got here, after like doing a walking tour through the city, asked me to, we're like, we want to go watch some football. We're gonna find a bar. Do you want to come? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really trying to go watch football right now. I'm not trying to go to a bar. It's kind of rainy outside, da 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 da. But I was like, fuck it. It's my first couple of days here. These guys seem chill. Let me go with them. And from there, I met my neighbors who are also working as teachers here in Valencia and who live in the same building as me. The boys I came with, we became closer. And we met these random two girls who are also working as teachers here in Valencia and who are now have formed like our whole like friend group we have here. And it's like it just expanded from that. So if I had said no, who knows where I would have been with that, right? And then
Hmm.
third is follow up with the connection. I feel like for me, whenever I meet somebody new, especially in an environment where it's like, oh, I'm new, I'm trying to meet people, I always get the Instagram or the WhatsApp. If I'm like, okay, you got Instagram, but if they don't have Instagram, be like, okay, what's your number? Because like you'll meet somebody, you might talk to somebody, establish a connection, but if you don't have a way to contact them after, like that shit's gone, right? So like
Hmm.
for me, I'm like, no matter even like I might not like fuck with them, I might not ever see them again. And when I leave this place, I might unfollow them, right? But at least for the time being, I have that connection. I can go back and say, hey, it was nice meeting you. Would love to hang out sometime. You know, or say I have some like I'm hanging out with a group of people. I might invite somebody I met recently, like, hey, you pull up, bring your friends, right? But at least that way, if I get that connection, then I have the ability to connect with them after I met them the first time. So those are my
Right.
three rules.
Those are really good suggestions. I will push back though. As a
Okay.
person that has previously dealt with extreme social anxiety and like, brother,
Mhm.
I get in my head, I'm my worst enemy. But
Yeah.
how do you suggest to get over said anxiety? Like,
Okay. Well, I haven't experienced that, so like it's hard for me to like just do this. But I
okay,
think,
so then let me say how I got somewhat
okay,
better at
yeah,
it. And basically, the one thing that I implemented a while ago, I still
hmm
somewhat do it now, but something that got me on my show, especially in New York, was to just have a random interaction with anyone. No, like, doesn't didn't have to be like a specific interaction. Like it could have been like saw some dude's jacket on in the subway, thought it was sick. I was like, "Yo, your jacket's sick."
yeah, okay,
Even though like it's a compliment and they're not gonna be like, "Fuck you." Like obviously, my head for some reason, my anxiety would be like, "Oh, they're gonna tweak."
yeah.
It just lowered the anxiety of starting new interactions with people, and that really helped me.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Like I like my suggestion was just gonna be like you just have to do it over and over and over again, and each time it will get a little bit easier. And like that's basically what you basically said. So makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's like the you become a master at something if you do it 10,000 hours. Or
Yeah.
the Bruce Lee quote that was like, I don't, I'm not afraid of someone that has practiced 100 kicks once. I'm afraid of the person that has practiced one kick 100 times or something like that.
Mm.
Which, I don't know, crazy. Yeah, exactly.
Practice that shot.
Hmm. Okay, yeah. I like the one other thing that really helped me, especially because in New York, I don't know if you did this in Chile or Colombia or in Valencia now, but playing soccer or playing football, pick up,
Mhm. Yeah.
there's like an app that is you can go because New York you have to have a permit for the field. It's so stupid. It's not like in Chile where you can just go pichanga. Like you have to prep it. But in a way, it's good because then you're like, oh, I know from this time to this time I'm gonna go play football or go play soccer. Like exploring hobbies, especially sports, or like if you're not a sports person, like there are especially in like big cities, there's so many like small communities of like if you like a certain board game. Like I know one of my coworkers loves Catan and she found like a whole group of people that play Catan. Like, hey, do whatever you want. But
Yeah.
doing those things and having what you said is like the connection, finding the connection of like, oh, what's your Instagram? Also having that in real life with being like, oh, you like this thing, I like this thing. Let's connect over that and then continue a
Sure.
conversation from there. Yeah.
Sure. 100%. I was about to say like yeah, like going to places that go follow your interests. Go to places that you're interested in, whether it's like do activities, sports, dance, music,
Hmm.
art, board games, cards, whatever, trivia. Like you go to those places, you find people that like those things as well. Then you find common people, like-minded people, people that you have things in common. And that then you're already half the battle's already won. The way I literally met my closest friend here. I went to a salsa dancing social event class, whatever, whatever. Met her, whatever. Found out she was also teaching from the US, and now like we're like this, so like, and it happened because both of us like salsa. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I think, yeah, looking back at how I've met people, if it's not through a connection of a friend, it's always through that. Like, oh,
Just
we both play soccer. Oh, we both like this song. Like one of my closest friends in New York, I was at a bar with some friends. He came up to me and he was like, "Oh, you know this song that's playing right now? What's the name of it?" And then, oh, I heard that he had a slight accent.
Yeah.
that's one thing for me, but I know no one, not everyone speaks seven languages, but whenever I hear an accent or whenever I like hear a language that I also speak, I'm like, oh, say Italiano, and then we started speaking Italian.
Uh,
And then now like he literally went with me to Chile like 2 weeks ago. So it was, you never know how life is crazy.
I mean, that's how me and you met, fucking singing a cappella. We both like to sing
Yeah.
certain types of music, so hey, that's how we met.
And we have appreciation for each other's culture's music, which is the
Yeah,
funny part.
exactly. Exactly.
Hmm. Well, speaking of a crazy life, do you want to talk about what your topic is for this week?
Yeah. Okay. Well, today is February 25th, and the Super Bowl was 3 weeks ago. But Bad Bunny is still the king of the world. He's still on his world tour. He's still getting the most streams of Spotify. He's the most listened to artist on Spotify this year, and his Super Bowl halftime show is still being talked about. Um,
Hmm.
Most people saw the halftime show. Um, and people talked about it and see it and probably experience it from the American perspective, right? The US, Bad Bunny's singing in Spanish, conservatives being like he shouldn't be here, he's Latino, he doesn't speak English, whatever, right? That's the American perspective.
Hmm.
One of my friends who I met studying abroad in Chile, who's Colombian, sent me an article a couple of weeks ago, and it was talking about basically how not all of Latin America is in agreement or feels represented or likes the way that Bad Bunny represented Latin America through his show, right? So, knowing Bad Bunny, knowing the type of music he makes, where he comes from, he's from Puerto Rico, he's from the Caribbean, he makes Caribbean music. Granted, the Caribbean and the Caribbean people, a lot of them fall under, or most of them fall under the brand of, or the tag, or whatever label of Latino or identification of Latino. And so Bad Bunny's whole message for a lot of people resonated as this is Latino culture. We're all Latinos and we're all Americans. Okay.
Hmm.
Some people, some countries, some cultures, some sects of Latin America don't necessarily agree with that. And it was something I hadn't really thought about, but that article brought it to light, where it was basically an article written in Chilean Post and a Chilean newspaper, I think from the University of Chile, actually. And it
Yeah.
was basically talking about how after Bad Bunny's show, obviously there was a lot of people who felt super represented and super proud by it, but there was a lot of people in Chile, Argentina, other countries, and places in the Caribbean, places in the north of South America, like Venezuela, Colombia, that were like, nah, like this whole representation of reggaeton and shaking ass, perreo, like beating drums, like that isn't my culture. That isn't Latino. Like I'm not part of that. I don't stand by that.
Hmm.
And and so one of the stats that they had in the article was like, okay, I think it was like, do it was like of Chileans, and it was like, do you identify with the term Latino? And I'm gonna find the article right here once my computer stops acting up, so I can track the stat correctly. But I feel like I remember seeing that it was like 70% of Chileans responded that they don't identify with the term Latino. And then in my head, I was like, wow, that's crazy high. But Mazhor is Chilean, and
Hmm.
so I figured that hey, this would be a great person to talk to about it. Um, how like when you heard about that, like how do you when you saw the show, how did you feel? How do you feel in response to kind of that idea of where certain Latin Americans and certain, people who we call Latino might not necessarily feel like that show or that representation of Latino culture, but I didn't like they don't identify with it.
Okay. So, Latino, let's break it down for what it is. Latino is someone who lives in a country that speaks a Latin root language, especially like a colony from Europe. So Latino includes places like Brazil, includes places like Guyana, and includes what is it? The Caribbean, basically Portuguese, Spanish, those languages, right? So it's a very big group of people that all fall under one category. And so it's kind of like if you think about in a US centric term or even in a European term, a German is not going to be really the same as a Italian. They're both European though, and they both have certain commonalities. But you go to a dinner in Germany, they're gonna serve you bratwurst, and if you go to the dinner in Italy, it's pasta alle vongole. Like it's very different. So in that term, like that's kind of a context I want to bring into it. Like Bad Bunny, what the point that I got across was he was like, "Yo, America is not only the U.S. America, U.S. is part of North America, that is Canada, Mexico, the Caribbean, South America. All of that is technically the Americas that was discovered and named by Amerigo Vespuccio. So I feel like he was trying to build a sense of unity around the ser Latino.
Mhm.
In terms of, so this is a point that I'll bring up. Me as a Chilean, our culture is very different from what he showed. Um, be living in the US, Latino culture, what people understand as Latino, is closer to what Bad Bunny represented than what I do at home with my family. The themes of what he was talking about, like the struggle or like the showing the sugarcane farms at the beginning with the history of slavery, that is common throughout all of Latin America. There was slavery or oppression of some group, either native peoples or um, black slaves that were brought over from Africa. Brazil, crazy slavery. Puerto Rico, sugarcane. In Chile, there weren't that many black slaves that got there, and the ones that did died off. But the native Mapuche people were um, taken advantage of. So I feel like the themes throughout the whole show were very prominent to what it is to be Latino. And on top of that, the biggest theme that I took away from it was just joy, happiness, love. And that is common to all Latinos. Like even though when I go to my family and we have once, we're not playing dembow, reggaeton. We might not even be playing music, but or if we're playing music, it's like soft jazz or something. I don't know, whatever my grandma wants, right? Abuelita manda. But what keeps us there, what keeps us all connected, is the love that we have for each other, and like expressing that in little ways. Maybe like, oh, I know you love this little chocolate. I brought it for you. Or, oh, we're playing this game, having a good time, laughing, expressing like our affection towards one another. So I think in terms of that, very Latino. And one thing, no matter what type of Latino you are, Brazilian, Chilean, Argentinian, Colombian, Puerto Riqueño, every single family gathering that is a big one, birthday or something like that, there will be music playing, and there's always going to be one kid that is conked the fuck out on in
Mhm.
between two chairs. That killed me because that is the most Latino thing I've ever seen in my life. I was that kid, and I was just like, "Ugh, I need a second."
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I have to say.
Interesting. No, yeah, good context, good person perspective. Yeah, like that, I think that all makes a lot of sense. That all makes a lot of sense. How do you feel like when people say, so I found a stat and I was like, it said 70% of Chileans feel or responded that they feel that Chile is quote unquote um, a very different country from the rest of Latin America. Do you feel that way? How do you interpret that? Do you think that's true, or why do you think people feel that way? And then they also mentioned kind of this term of excepcionalismo chileno, Chilean exceptionalism.
Yeah. Okay. We could do a
We also, mind
whole
you, we also have
episode.
American exceptionalism. We're not just shitting on Chile. but we're just talking about it today.
We could do a whole episode on this, but um, okay, let me see. Yes, basically, Chile as a country geographically. Let's talk about it geographically first.
Mhm.
It's the longest country in the world, the thinnest country. Like that, the dimensions of it make it um spectacular, I guess. Or it's just a very skinny law. It's a chopstick, basically, if you think about it that way. In the north, you have the driest desert in the world, which is the Atacama Desert. So there's not that many people living there. It's really hard to pass that. Then you have the coast on one side, and then the Andes Mountains on the other, and then in the south you have the South Pole. So we are isolated geographically. So the things that spread everywhere else really quickly don't really spread in Chile that quickly culturally. In the past without social media and stuff like that. Another like history, the Incas were one of the biggest empires in the Americas. They got to Chile and were stopped by the Mapuche. Same thing with the Spanish. Got to Chile, stopped by the Mapuche two or three times before smallpox and other diseases got to them. So Chile has a very like individual culture compared to the rest of Latin America. Um, we are also one of the most wealthy in terms of like gross income. Um, so a lot of immigrants within South America go to Chile for a better life. So I think there's this idea that Chile is better than the rest in terms of like economy, in terms of like lifestyle, but not culturally, which is interesting. Um, Living in the US, growing up outside of it, as an immigrant in another country, your nationalism for your home country gets greatened because you just like your whole family's there, like you feel a sort of connection. So for me, I'm very super pro Chile and like proud of my heritage.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me because a lot of our practices are not very Latino in the sense of like everyone else does them. Like we have tea time at 5 and we call it once. And yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
Chile has a very unique culture, I will say, out of the like Latin American sphere.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and it's reflected in like okay, so I studied abroad in Chile at the same time Melchor was there and like living with his family and stuff like while we were in school, like 2023. And something that somebody taught like said to me that always stuck with me and was like, oh, this makes so much sense was like the thing exactly that Melchor said. Like geographically, Chile is a very historically has been a very isolated country. Desert in the north, fucking Patagonia in the south, Andes on the east, and ocean on the west, right?
Hmm.
Pacific. And so that contributes to like the impediment of like the spreading of one people, whether that's conquistadors or yeah, or like other native like populations that try to invade. In a modern context, that historically has prevented a lot of kind of just migration and unregulated migration because people can't just walk there the same way you can walk from certain countries to other countries, right?
Hmm.
And then also like with language, like Chile obviously is well known for its very unique Spanish dialect and
Yep.
words and that way of speaking. And so that also, like, from my understanding, is a large part is in large part result to not only its native population in terms of certain words and stuff like that, but also the fact that, hey, if you have a group of people that is isolated, they develop certain ways of speaking. It happens all across the world. That's how dialects form, and that's how the
Hmm.
same happens in Chile because of its geographical uniqueness, I'd say. So, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Last point I'll touch on and then I'll move on to my section, I guess. Chile, the conquistador that eventually did conquer or like create Santiago, um, Pizarro, there's a stone in the middle of Santiago that says a quote that he wrote in a letter back to Spain. And I don't know the letter word for word, but the majority of it, the theme is like appreciation of Chile, of like the place and the nature, which is
Mhm.
something that is huge. Like um a lot of when I'm in the US, and first of all, I don't really go hiking that much because you don't have mountains like you do in Chile, and it like really makes me sad because in Chile you have these huge mountains and it's beautiful, right? But here,
On the East Coast
um,
for the most
on the
part.
East Coast, right? Um, basically there's like everyone in Chile who has, unfortunately, who has the money to travel, like people who are working paycheck to paycheck or not even, they can't. But like the higher middle class and high class in Chile, there's this deep sense of appreciation for the nature of the country. And because Chile is so long, a lot of people travel within Chile only. Like you could like from Santiago to the desert, the Atacama, it's like a what, 3 hour plane ride, which is a lot for a lot of Chileans. Like it's expensive to travel.
Mhm.
So, and then from Santiago to Pucón or Valdivia, Villarrica, where I was this past trip, it's another 2 hours. And then if you want to go down to the south, it's like 6 hours. So there's a lot of internal travel that happens in Chile, and a lot of people do this to appreciate the nature that we have. So on top of like geographically people not going into Chile, people in Chile don't really go out. So that's kind of a thing that causes this sort of different culture than the rest. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Interesting. Viva Chile. El mejor país de Chile.
Somos el mejor país de Chile.
Oh God. I can't wait to go
Yeah,
back. I need to go back. Oh my gosh.
yeah. And there are also so many like Chilean memes, bro. Oh my God. Like specifically like Chilean, el mojojo, la calila. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
only understand this stuff if you're from Chile, bro.
yeah, bro.
Or you've
Much more
been there.
all the time.
Hmm. I, para los chilenos que están escuchando, lo achinalicé, weón. Lo achinalicé a este compa.
Repeal.
Totalmente. Totalmente, weón. Okay, so I have two things I want to talk about. Um, real quick. Basically, I'll link it here, but there's there's one paper that I want to talk about real quick. It's a scientific study that was done in the 90s. Really, really cool paper. If you want to give it a read, go for it. But the highlights is that this paper was about carbon storage and sequestration by urban trees in the US. Let's break that down. Basically, because this is sustainability and we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff, basically, this is the trees, how they suck up carbon and exhale oxygen. The opposite of what we humans do. We intake oxygen, exhale CO2. Basically, this was a study comparing the trees in urban areas in like 12 or 14 cities in the US versus forests near these cities. So, like, comparing those two trees. The big outcome of this, or the biggest takeaway, was that the trees that are living and growing in cities, which tend to have a higher amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, they suck up more carbon than the trees in the forests. So I think that's really interesting because a lot of what we hear in terms of like sustainability, we need to grow back the forest, we need to grow back the forest. Yes, we do, but we don't need, because of a lot of other things like increased biodiversity, having a habitat for those animals, insects, trees, different types of plants, even. That's important in the forest. But in terms of as a sinkhole for CO2, that can be done within cities. So one of
Mm,
the other things that was I thought was cool or interesting um, was that they measured the amount of CO2 absorbed and compared that to the circumference of the tree trunk.
gotcha.
So, which basically also associates age with the amount of CO2 absorbed. And you could kind of tell, you could predict this, but the thicker trunk, the bigger trees, older trees sucked up more carbon. So to create long-lasting change and increase the healthiness of and the quality of the air in cities, it would be good to plant more trees and let those trees that you plant grow to a older age, thicker trunks, more CO2 in, more O2 out. So
Yeah.
that's, I don't know if you have anything to say about, but that's just an interesting article I thought I wanted to mention. And for those of you that are city planners or anything like that, think about like how we can include trees and
Yeah.
planting of like little sections of trees can make a very big difference in terms of the air quality, in terms of the CO2 that they absorb. So,
Yeah. No, that's interesting that you bring that up. I have one question and a comment. My question is,
mhm.
um, is there like a scientific explanation as to why in cities they suck up more than in forests, or is it because like yeah,
Okay.
the
So long-winded answer. There's a very scientific explanation for this, but basically, there's another study that they compared trees from the Industrial Revolution to trees now because there's trees that have been growing that entire time. They compared how the newer trees, there's these openings in the leaves where you suck in CO2 and
Mhm.
exhale O2. In the older trees, the ones that were in an environment where there was more oxygen um, and less CO2 than now, which is a
Mhm.
fact. We can see it in a bunch of different studies. There were more openings in the leaves because you needed to get in more CO2 to exhale O2.
Mhm.
Now there's less of those gaps in the leaf, which shows that the environment has more CO2, so they don't need as many of these openings to intake or release O2. And that's kind of the same theme that is going on here. In cities, you have so much more CO2 being produced by cars, manufacturing, factories, people even, that there's so much more CO2 in the atmosphere that when these gaps open up in the leaves, they take up a lot more than in the woods. In the forest, there's
Mhm.
not a big industrial complex or like a factory that's
Right.
shooting out CO2 like there is in the city. So that's a hypothesis and sort of explanation as to why that can be tracked through other studies.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Interesting that you bring that up, and I've seen and I've learned about real life examples of that. Medellin, Colombia.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm sure. I was like, it's like city urban planners, environmental planners, like biggest fucking thing because Medellin did not only a really significant political and cultural change in terms of violence and drugs and all that stuff, whatever, but they planted hella trees. They redesigned the city. They really invested in building green infrastructure, planting trees, plants, all this stuff for fauna. And within 10 years or 15 years, they lowers the average temperature of that city by 2 degrees.
Celsius, which is
So,
even more in Fahrenheit.
which is a big difference. Big difference. So it's
And
work.
my hypothesis is that those two things are correlated. You make it, you better public spaces, more greenery, less crime. That's a prediction
Better
hypothesis.
appreciation.
It's not proved.
It is.
Inshallah, I will prove it one day.
All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is a yeah.
Thank you for bringing up the Medellin example. I'll in another episode I'll go into it in depth because it is so cool how the difference
Mhm.
and it it works in tropical climates like that where greenery can be built like grow super fast in a jungly area, but it's really interesting how we can try to apply that in different environments like Chile, like the US.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and it's the there is a significant correlation between increasing this public these public areas that are green centered around like in the environment and a GDP increase of the city, which hey,
Mhm.
just saying for you people that like money, like the stock market,
Yeah, right.
it could be a good idea, could be a good idea. Okay.
For the let's take care of the planet, take care of your money, huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, okay. Speaking of taking care of the planet, my second thing that I want to touch on briefly is the repealing of the EPA protection. The what's it called? The endangerment finding. This happened like last week or a few days ago. Might not have been a week yet, but the EPA, which for the US is the Environmental Protection Agency, is meant to protect the people, plants, animals of the US. In 2009, there is an endangerment finding for greenhouse gases, meaning that after 10 years of extensive research within the organization and outside, they determined that greenhouse gases such as CO2 and methane are detrimental to people, plants, and animals.
Mm,
The excess amounts of those. Because of the US Clean Air Act that was passed before, um, anything that is proven to be endangering to the people of the US or plants and animals
mm,
uh, needs to be regulated.
mm,
So the repealing of the endangerment finding doesn't necessarily take away the regulations that are put in place, but it takes away the legal directive and requirement to regulate them.
mm, mm,
Um, so I just want to, because you can, if you've watched this, you can tell what type side of the aisle we stand on. I kind of want to talk about how this affects everyone in the US. Like, sure, if you are a person in a car manufacturer, like you're going to be able to sell things at a cheaper price. You're going to be able to not have to put in an air filter into your exhaust pipes because of this. But as a whole, if you're very patriotic and very like America, yes, this stance makes the US weaker as a whole, less healthy, and it increases the economical burden on the average American because of the risks associated with increased greenhouse gases and climate change. So, if
mm,
there's more, like we're saying, increased greenhouse gases is detrimental to your health. You're going to have to visit the doctor more, which is something that you have to take out of your paycheck. You're going to have to potentially go to the emergency room more, which is extremely expensive in the US. That is all going out of your pocket, no matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent.
mm, mm.
That's my point on the continued risks of this specific thing.
Yeah.
Climate change. I want to talk about climate change, specifically the term global warming. If you think that the amount of snowstorms we're having right now and the like crazy power of the blizzard that we just had, since first one since like 2008, I think it was. If you think that is a proof that global warming doesn't exist, I hate to break to you, you're wrong. I'm sorry. But the
Great.
reason why, scientifically, the reason why this is a, like the scientific community probably made a mistake calling climate change global warming because it in the name it assumes that everything is going to be hotter. The average temperature is going to be hotter throughout the globe because of the greenhouse effect. Basically, a lot more CO2 is in the air, methane is in the air, traps the heat inside the atmosphere, doesn't let it escape. That's the greenhouse effect. Um, Climate change, we really should talk about change it to climate change as a greater like discussion. But basically, it means that there's going to be more irregularity, more extreme weather
Mhm.
circumstances like bigger
Mhm.
floods. If there was 5 feet of flooding, now it's going to be 10. If there was 10 inches of snow in New York, now it's going to be 18 minimum to 30 or it's like 28, which is what we just had this past weekend. And the normal weather is going to be changing more frequently. So I know Texas had snow this year, and that's very uncommon. The reason for it is that there's the Arctic Circle, which is a lot of cold air, is maintained in the Arctic. That is also part of the reason why in the US, if you compare the latitude of like Boston or um,
New York
DC,
City.
New York City, to the comparative cities in Europe, in Europe it's so much hotter, so much more temperate than the same latitude. I think like Boston is at the same latitude as Rome. And Rome you associate with hot, it barely ever snows.
Mm-hmm.
Boston, cold as shit, and it
Mm-hmm.
snows a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The the reason for that is because the Arctic Circle, there's a like a dip in the western or like Midwest, right?
And like the
And
wind, like the pattern of the wind, or like just like basically the way that the air flows, right?
mhm. And it's related to the currents. It's we're in the a planet that everything is related to one another. That's kind of what I want to get through with this podcast. Common ground. We're all nuestra tierra. We're all together. We're all experiencing effects of somewhere else, right? And basically, that Arctic Circle broke, and a lot of cold air rushed out down into Texas, which caused there to be this giant snowstorm like a month or maybe like 2, 3 weeks ago. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I want to say about climate change. The endangerment finding being repealed is very detrimental to the US as a whole because it allows people to be sicker, more money to be wasted. Um, and yeah, I think if you are pro US, very nationalistic, this is something that should you should care about and maybe bring it up to your representatives, your congresswoman or congressman, senator, something like that. Because democracy, at least for now, is something that you can use the tools in it. You can you can talk to people and have your voice heard and try to be represented. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
for
my little sustainability section for this week.
No, and I was trying to add because, well, one, the thing you talk about with like the latitudes of European cities, for example, compared to American cities, very true. I remember reading about that and learning about that. It's like, yeah, Europe is so far north compared to the USA. Like cities like London, Paris, Madrid, Barcelona, Rome, and Valencia, like all above practically Washington, D.C. for the north on the latitude. But the climates are extremely different, and it is because of like that, those currents, which is super interesting. The other thing I was gonna say is when you're talking about climate change is not just global warming, but it's more regular weather and more extreme weather. Very true. If you look at the strength of hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico
Ooh.
on the Atlantic coast, increasing exponentially. That's why literally every year it's like biggest hurricane ever, category 5, category 4, whatever. And it's like over the past maybe 5 to 10 years, there's been so many category 4 and 5 hurricanes. But like if you look at the decades before that, there's not nearly as many. And it's like if you look at like the strongest hurricanes recorded on in history, at least for the North America, the vast majority of them, or a very increasing number of them, are within the past 5, 6, 7 years. And it's like 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. Like we're getting to the point where we have multiple years with multiple category 5 hurricanes, which previously, like you take Hurricane Katrina and back, was unheard of.
Mhm.
So yeah, just that.
And
I'm
I
not
just
a
want to
scientist,
say,
I'm not versed in this, but it's just something that I've seen around.
and I just want to say, last point on this, nature doesn't care how much money you have or what side of the aisle you are. If a tree is next to you and falls on your house, it the only thing that changes is if you have money, you'll be able to repair and like come back from that. But if you
If the
don't,
tree can fall on you.
yeah. So hey, something to think about. All right, let's wrap this up, Langston.
Yeah.
Before we went, we planned what we were gonna say, our songs of the week, things to look forward to. It's been a month, but still, what was the song of 4 weeks ago that you were listening to?
My song of 4 weeks ago is my same song as today. It's my song of 2026 so far.
Mm.
Uh, and it's my artist of 2026 so far. His name is Jean. We have the same birthday. Recently
Ah,
marries me. And he has so many good songs, but one of my favorites is called Higher. I love it. It's great. It's a great vibe. It's beautifully put together. The lyrics are beautiful. My favorite part of the song lyric is it's a lust that's getting my ass, but when you really love, it's easy. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is we all know that short-term pleasure, short-term gain, lust, things like that kill. And it can be applied to so many different contexts. But when things are true, when things are patient, when things are genuine, it gets rewarded and it's truly much more valuable and precious. So that's my song of the week, Higher by Dijon.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Good. Cool. I will definitely. I've heard Dijon before, but I don't think I've listened to that song. My song of the week 4 weeks ago was "What You Need" by Thames.
Okay, okay.
It was one of her new songs. I love Thames. I can't. Her voice is just amazing.
Mhm.
Um,
Her voice is
Her
amazing.
voice is, bro, is one of the best voices of this generation of singers, in my opinion, because
Yeah,
a lot of this generation of singers like is auto tune. It's like a lot not super like vocally strong, I would say.
mhm.
Musically, different story. She is one of the few people that I feel like with or without auto tune, her voice is powerful. So good song. I don't have a good lyric like you, Langston, about that. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Her voice is so good. It sounds good even with the ears are closed. Right, right.
Hmm. Hmm.
No, but yeah, Love Tim's also. I haven't heard that specific song, but I'll definitely listen to it now that you bring it up because I also do fuck with Tim's heavy. Do you want to do things to look forward to or things we were looking forward to and how they went?
Yeah, so I was looking forward to surfing on the beach. I did, and it was
Hey,
really fun. I actually went with my aunt, my two little cousins, and Albert, my friend. My one of my cousins is 9 and has Down syndrome, and we did like a special surfing class for him. He had the most fun I've ever seen. And usually he's scared of the beach because the beach in Chile, like you can attest, the waves, if you look the wrong way, you are getting your ass whooped by that wave.
yeah.
So we went to a beach that had smaller waves, but still the current is super strong. He had a great time, loved it, was on the surfboard, and it was really, really fun. Really wholesome moment.
Yeah. That's good. I'm looking forward to that. That's one thing I never did in Chile because I'm also scared of the water. And I'm not the best swimmer, but surfing, my friends did it and they enjoyed it a lot. So one day I gotta try it. Um,
When you come back, I'll take you.
yeah. Things to look for. Oh, the thing that I was looking forward to after before our last episode was I was going on a trip to the Canary Islands with a friend, specifically Tenerife. Tenerife. Shout out Quevedo. He's from the Canary Islands. But
Hmm.
it was a great trip. Tenerife and the Canary Islands are well known because they're Spanish territory, but they're close to the coast of Africa, Morocco, and the Western Sahara, and they're volcanic. The islands are formed like because they're volcanic. They have active volcanoes, and the sand on the majority of beaches is black or gray sand, not like white or yellow sand like most people are used to.
Hmm.
So me and my friend, we went, rented a car, stayed in the hostel. The island is not that big. We could do loops around that joint. Like it had some good food, had some great vibes on the beach. It was
Hmm.
warm. It was just a great 4 days. And it was just straight vibes. So if anybody's fortunate enough to travel to the Canary Islands and Tenerife, I recommend it. Heavily recommend. So
Damn, I
yeah.
need to go. I'm
Yeah.
getting jealous. And
Yeah.
last thing is a form of media we consumed during the week. Um I had started and finished by now a book called Tangerine. I don't have it with me because I left it in Chile and gave it to my aunt, but it was a great book. I will put the author's name somewhere because amazing book. It was really, really interesting and introspective about an immigrant woman and her father dies and then like going back home and being reconnected with home and
Mm,
family and just like trying to find herself. And I, as a fellow immigrant, I heavily related to it. And there were some really good parts of the book that I will hold on for a minute, for a while. Yeah, great book. And reading on the beach is unparalleled. Oh, such a good vibe.
100%, 100% interesting. I need to check out that book. That sounds very interesting. Once again, I'm not that big of a reader, definitely. But I do have a Netflix show for you guys. The show is called His and Hers. It is a murder mystery, um, classic Netflix show, short series, 8 episodes. Honestly, found it hard to get through. Did not fuck with one of the main characters, but people kept saying there's a plot twist that makes it worth it, and the plot twist did make it worth it. Did not go where I think it was going. And then once you get to it, you're like, oh shit. And you're like, oh shit. You start realizing some things and you're like, and it makes you think different about the relationships that people have in their lives and the relationship between children and their parents. Um,
Hmm.
Watch it. Just stick it out, guys. Just stick it out to the end. You'll be like, oh, great writing, great twist. I loved it. So yeah.
Yeah, I watched it interestingly with my grandma in Chile.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't finish it with her, but started watching it with her, and we had the same like you know when like there's like a very important character in a movie or in a book or in any form of media, you just fucking hate them. You're just like,
Yeah.
wow, you are a shit human being. And then
Uh,
in the end, I was like,
yeah. Yeah,
oh,
no, literally. And you know what? The
oh,
writers probably did that on purpose too. So,
yeah. So hey, great writing. And great episode. I had a
but
great time
well,
talking to you, Langston.
as always,
Um, much love. Thank you guys for watching, listening, all that stuff. And we'll see you guys in a week. Hopefully, a week this time.
next week. We'll see you next week. Peace out.
Ciao.